Okay, good morning. Hope you're all right. Good to see you again. Now, hopefully this week you've been able to access the software that I put on Show My Homework. So if there's been any problems with getting hold of it, and I've had a conversation with Ollie this morning, he said that once you go onto the website, it asks you for an email address. The email address should be your school email address. Excellent, Maddie. I can see in your comments that you said you resubmitted your work. That's fantastic. We'll have a look at that in a second. So you need to this week try and get hold of software that I've put the attachment on. Look at it in a second. And using your school email, it's important to use your school email rather than your personal one because it's a school piece of software, and what they're for is confirmation that you are a pupil at our school. So we've got the license, it's free, you don't have to pay anything. All you need to make sure that you download it onto your computer. It's not a very big folder, it doesn't take up lots of space, and it does take about 4 to 5 minutes to do so, to download it onto there. But once it's on, you should have the same software that now we've used it yet. We should have used it already in our lessons, but we've not obviously to do it. So I'm hoping that you've used a bit of it with Mr. Davis, and you've also used it with me in Year 9 when we did the egg cup projects. It's exactly the same program that we used when we did our work last year. 2D design. It's called this time, but it is exactly the same. It's the same tools and the same layout. So if you remember back to Year 9, I know it seems a long time ago now, but when we did our 2D laser cutting egg cups, we drew using a program that enabled us to draw the outline and then basically the laser cut the bits out. What you need to do is you're going to draw cutlery that you've designed for me. So we want a knife, a fork and a spoon if that's what you produce, unless of course like this you're having some sort of all-in-one piece, but mostly you're going to produce 3 pieces on the 2D software so that I can laser cut it out. Now, even though schools aren't going to be open until probably the 8th of March, it looks like now, I can still get into school. So once you've done your folder, you've saved it as a file, send it to me. I hopefully should be able to get in school and laser cut those out for you. So as soon as we come back, you'll have the laser cut cutlery out. So let's have a quick look then. I think most people have joined us that have joined us. Are there any questions so far, any problems? Ollie, as I said, I don't think you heard me because you joined a bit later. I know you've had a few problems. Have you managed to resolve those yet with getting on the software? You can turn your mic on if you want, Ollie, talk to me or put it in the chat. Excellent. So how did you do it, Ollie? So in case somebody's watching this and they haven't done it yet, how did you go about doing it? So you go to the website, it asked for an email address. Is that what you did? You just put your school email in? Wait to see what Ollie puts in his reply. Right, okay, then put school email address. Yeah, you just need to put what school it is, because as I said, it's an educational piece of software. Yeah, you might. Jen's managed to access it, that's perfect. It should be quite straightforward. You put your school email, put the school address, and then it will start downloading it for you, okay? So hopefully you can do it. If there are any, let me know. Or the other thing you can do is you can email the help desk at ucc.co.uk, sorry, .suh.uk, and they will sort it out for you. So if you're having real trouble downloading it, just have a chat with them, okay? So what I'm going to do first of all is just start sharing my screen. Bear with me while I do this a second. Okay, hopefully now you can see my screen. So I updated this, I think I did it on Monday, and I know Charlie, you've submitted me some stuff this morning, so you can see here I've just started to update this. I think what you gave me was your design ideas with a little modelling on, because it was both A4 sheets. So I've put that as green and yellow. I think we would possibly need a bit more on your model sheet, or perhaps another A4 sheet, but that's, I think, where you're at. I hope that tallies with what you've handed in for me so far. So if you've got any other sheets you want to submit to me, send them in and then I can update this. So Amy, for example, if you've done your modelling sheet, you can submit that now, and then I can add that in. And Maddie, you said you're going to resend yours in, so I can put those in. That's great. So keep an eye on this. I'll keep putting it on to Show My Homework attached it onto the folder within Teams. I'll just quickly show that. So once you're in your Teams, if you go into all the Teams, I hope you can see this. So in Teams here, so these are the posts, the things that I've entered, the chat, if you like, of what we're doing at the moment. Along the top there, next to post, it says Files. If you click onto that, sorry, it's a bit of a delay, but there we go. You can see there, look, I'm loading up everything that I put on each week. So if you don't want to go through Show My Homework and try and find the pages that you need to find, then this is a quick and easy way of finding everything. I'll keep dropping everything into that folder. I'm going to update this coursework assessment. Once I've remarked them again today, I will change that so it'll be more modern. So let's get on to, first of all, just can I check with you, are there any questions? Let's have a look. Any questions from anybody? Ali, Ollie, you say you put your Access FM sheet in. Yes, I think I changed that for you. No, what you submitted me was the homework that we did on Access FM. So what you need to do for me is a sheet of work, which is actually cutlery written about with Access FM. I thought I'd sent you Cara's example of that. If not, I'll resend it so you can see that. So if you go back onto last week and look at what I sent you, I'm sure I sent you Cara's example of what that work should look like. Okay. All right, let's get back onto the software then. So this is what it should look like when you download it. I've put some videos onto Teams and on Show My Homework that show you how to use this. So what it should do, it should take you straight onto my channel. So I've created a channel just to stick these things on there because sometimes it's hard to find where to look. So on this channel are all the videos that I've made for us this term. There are some that are for the younger years as well. So you can see all the modelling videos are on there. There's also the videos that you need for 2D design. They're all on there as well. Okay. I've also created them as playlists. So if you go on the playlist channel, you'll see there is a specific key stage for coursework one for you, for your age group. Okay. So rather than looking at all the year 7 stuff and the year 11 stuff, you can just go in the support material for year 10. The videos you need are in there. And this one in particular, Techsoft one, is a tutorial that's going to help you set up the page for today so you know what you're doing. And then you can carry on doing these two. These two are going to show you how to actually draw and design your cutlery. Okay, so everything's on the website. Hopefully you can access that. Okay, let me just check. There aren't any more messages. No, that's great. Fantastic. All right, so what do we do? Well, once you get into the program, first thing you need to do is to set up the bed. Now, doesn't matter too much in this case because you're only designing little tiny cutlery. It's not very big. But normally you might be cutting a huge piece of wood out and you need to make sure that you can cut the biggest size you can. The program automatically sets it up at a standard size, but the actual laser cutter, if you're going to set up a drawing and layout, the laser cutter has a maximum size that we can put the piece of material in. So if you go to user defined rather than standard size, this means we're setting it up, and the material is actually 600 by 400, okay, 60 by 40 centimeters, and then you just press OK. Now that's reset that, so that's the size of the bed of the cutter. Okay, remember the laser cutter always starts in the top left hand corner when it starts to cut out. It starts up over here and starts laser cutting, and it works its way across the bed like that, and then quite often it'll come back down here and start. So it's always going to default to this top left hand corner. So if you can make sure you put your work in that top left hand corner, it's going to cut it straight away. It's not going to have to go and find your work right down here to try and laser cut it out. Okay. This is the edge of the machine, so don't put anything overhanging into the blue area. It won't do anything with it. It needs to fit within it. The grid that's on there at the moment, I'll just turn it off and show you how you put it back on again. There you go. You can see on this right hand side, there's the grid option. I'm just going to turn that off as well, step lock. These are all centimeters. So all these little dots that are on there are centimeter apart. And that's great for when you're drawing things. So the tools you're going to use are this program, this toolbox at this side here. I've just dragged it off so you can see it. I'm going to use the line tool. If you press and hold the line tool, you can see it brings up a variety of different ways of drawing your lines. You're probably only ever going to need to use these two on this side. So a straight line or a series of connected lines. Okay, we'll start with a straight line. So you know you've selected the right tool. If you right click that, it then brings up more options. And this is where you get your sizing. If you know that you need to draw a 14 centimetre line, it draws centimetres, so don't forget to put a naught. Draw that down the page. So if I put an angle of 90 degrees in, then the computer would automatically draw a 14 centimetre line on the page. Just zoom in so we can see this a bit better. Okay, so it's drawn it. Now, if I turn grid lock on and redo that, just repeat that. Okay, press it. This is automatically now snapping onto the grid. You can see that it's, as I move the mouse around, it's snapping on the grid. So rather than drawing it in the middle of nowhere, it's going to draw it actually on the grid. So everything it does is going to be. So if you're doing round numbers, even numbers that are within a centimetre, it's an easy way of doing it rather than just randomly placing this somewhere on your screen. You can do it lock time, you don't need to keep it on. Step lock means when you're drawing, it's also going to start to snap to the grid. So as I draw here, it's going to start to snap to the grid, which sometimes makes it a bit complicated when you're trying to draw unusual shapes. So I always turn that off and leave it off. Okay? Now, remember your colours are here. It says line, colour. The two you need are here. You only ever need these two. Black for engraving, red thing. So the laser cutter that we have is defaulted for those two. All the other beautiful colours in the rainbow don't do anything. They're there if we want to specifically set a cutting. So for example, if I was cutting metallic, which is combustible, it can catch fire, we would use a different color, and I might set the laser to be a specific heat and speed so that I make sure it doesn't catch fire while it's cutting out. You could set default cutting tool as different colors, which we do sometimes. But in your case, for cutting plastic, black, engrave, red for cut. Okay. Now, if I want this to be a guideline, then I can make it any color I want. I can make it any color just so that I can see it. Okay. And it cut. So I've made that a blue line. I hope you can still see that. So my blue line is now a guideline, and it's going to do nothing on the laser cutter. And again, I can do another line to enable me to. So I'm going to do a 4 centimetre. Put the grid lock back on. I'm going to go from there. There you go. A 4 centimetre guideline at the top. That's going to give you an idea of where to draw my design. I'm just going to go and check and make sure everybody's okay. Is everybody all right with that so far? Is there any questions that you want to put in the chat or turn on and talk to me? No, everybody okay? Just stick a thumbs up in the chat so I can see all right with that so far. Thumbs ups. No, you've all gone for a wander. Well, hopefully you're still watching this. Okay, so what we need to do now is we're going to draw a spoon. I would start with a spoon because it's the easiest one to do, and you can use it then to draw the fork, and you can also use it to start making a handle for your knife. So within the third tool down here, you'll see there's a square. If you press and hold it, you see it's the shape tool. I press and hold it out with lots of other shapes. And what we need to use is this one here. It's called a Bezier, but actually it's like an oval shape. Okay, that's what we're going to use, our ellipse tool. Let's change this now to red because this is our cutting outline. Okay, and it's going to keep snapping on the grid. So I'm going to turn the off. You can see over on this side again, grid lock off first because I want to freehand draw this. Start at the center. I'm going to pull the line down so it makes it that width, and then I'm going to pull it out. So it's going to give me an idea of where this is going to be. All right. Now I can see that this isn't fitting on here very well. I'm going to drag this down a bit because I want my spoon to fit in with the 14 centimeters. There we go. That's a bit better. So all I've done is I've moved my guideline down slightly. So the top of the spoon is fitting on the top of the 14 centimeters and it goes from the edge. Okay. That's quite straightforward. Then what we need to do is to draw a handle. Now you can draw that looks any shape you want to. I'm going to start doing one that's an ellipse shape, just to repeat that process. So if I draw a curve shape, pull that to there, push that down a bit. Let's zoom in and have a look. Now, there's a handle for this spoon. I've deliberately left a space between the two. And the reason for that is that you need to draw a neck. Okay, let's talk about that a little bit. Go back onto here. Everybody all right still? Great. And thanks for the thumbs. That's good. Must be a delay on my side. Okay, back to over here. So the reason I've left a neck, why a neck? What are you supposed to do? Well, if you look at cutlery, you tend to have handle on the side and you have your utensil on the other side. There's always a gap between the two. This is what we call the neck. Now, the neck is important because if we don't have a neck, if the handle went right up to the utensil, let's say this handle here comes right up to that bit, there's a tendency that people would put the hand like that. And then imagine eating your food with that. All that food on the hand here, your hand's going to get quite easily full with beans or peas or something. So by giving a neck, it means that people don't hold the cutlery too close to where the food bit is. And if you're using it as a fork, you might want to actually hold onto this bit to give up a bit of pressure if you're having to push the utensil into something. So same with a knife. If you've got a knife, you might have a gap bit that you press your finger on to make sure it goes. Sometimes it just narrows. So you can see the handle on this one is wider and then it gets a bit narrower where the neck is before we get the utensil at the end. So I've left a gap deliberately for that purposes. Okay, so remember that. You're doing it, keep your handle separate from the utensil and give yourself a little gap in the middle for the neck part. Okay. Is everybody okay with that? Any questions? Good. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for replying. It's really teaching like this. We like to have some feedback. Excellent. All right, back onto the software then. So we've got the handle. Now I've put the handle on there and I can see my utensil actually looks quite big. 4 centimeters looks massive. So I'm going to resize it now. Show you another way of drawing this. I'm going to draw a circle on here. I've drawn a circle. Select it with the selection tool. And you can see when you select a line, it pops up with this little box. It's usually right down the bottom right-hand corner down. I'm just moving it so we can see it. If I press the property box, this is going to give me some information about this. See now how big this shape is. It's 18 centimeters or 1.8 across. So I could alter it here and up. So if I put it there and I'm at 20, that's 2 centimeters instead. Remember this, so it's half of the shape. You press update, it will update that shape. So I know that's now 4 centimeters across both ways. Having a look at this, this looks massive, doesn't it? It looks huge. So I'm going to resize this, make it a bit smaller so it matches my utensil a bit better. Okay. Delete the guide off a minute and just put that there. Yeah, that looks a bit better, a bit more in proportion. And I'll stretch that out a little bit more. Okay. Looks a little bit better, doesn't it? Okay, so the neck, how are we going to do the neck to join the two? Well, you could just do a straightforward straight neck. So I could use a line tool and just draw some lines across. That's one way we could do it. It might look a bit boring, but it would work. It's a cut. So I could draw a line across from there. That could be neck. Deleting, down the bottom where it says delete, you've got delete. So if I use this option here, this is going to delete the whole of that line. If you press and hold this tool, you can see you can change it to delete part. So what it would do is it would only delete that bit in the middle and it would leave the bits overhanging. So if I delete that, it'll delete all of it. What I'm going to do instead is use this tool. Now we used this when we did your egg cups, if you remember. A path tool, I'll just show you here. You need, I don't know if you can hear the clicking. you need to anchor the path. Okay, so you click it once, pull it, I'd click it again, and then you're going to be able to pull and curve your line. So the more click you do, the more you can anchor your line. Okay, so starting here, and rather than trying to get myself right on that line, I'm not going to bother doing that. I'm just going to start base, anchor it, and then start to bring it down into this space. Okay, so I've deliberately done it easier. I've just pulled it longer, and then I can delete part and the two overhanging bits. And that's a really quick and easy way of doing the neck. And you can be more precise if you want to. So if I start over here, I'll bring the neck a bit more curved like this. You can see that one is a little bit better curved onto there. So you can put your neck on and design it any way you want. Now, you could repeat that at the other side, but obviously that's quite hard to get the same again. So you've got a choice. You could copy it, copy the whole thing, right click and paste it, and then you can flip it. There's a flip here. This would flip it vertically and horizontally. Okay, so flip it horizontally, and then you can grab it from the point in the middle and move it and stick it on there. So that's one way I could do that. It's going to be a bit fiddly, but I could do that. Another cheap way that you could do it is to half your design. Whoops, just undo that a minute. Down the bottom here. If I stretch that a little bit longer, then I should be able to delete this design. Oh, something else I found in this program that's better than ours at school. Because ours at school, when you go to undo, only undoes the last thing you did. And I've noticed in this one up here, look at the top, do button, redo button, which is fabulous. So you go back more stages than we can at school. Now, before I do this, I'm going to also delete this line here because I want it to be a continuous outline. I want cut lines. If I leave them in, it's going to cut off the handle. Remember, there's a cut line in there. I'm going to delete that. That one's just not quite long enough, that one there. If that happens, just stretch your line slightly and trim it. That should do it. There we go. No, it's done on that one as well. See, even teachers are not that good on this. There we go. Delete that. Right, so what I've got now is I've deleted off the connection lines and it's left me with an outline. And all I need to do is repeat that process. I'm going to draw a box around this time because it's all of this line I want to connect. Right, I want all of it. Select all of it. Don't select the blue line, but select all the red line. And then again, I'm going to copy and paste it, grab it from the middle box and lift it up. Now this means that I don't have to try and get that neck in the right place because I'm copying and pasting the whole line. And then you should get it looking symmetrical on both sides. Now, a word of warning, I talk about this on the video I did. You need to make sure there's no gaps. Now, to you and I, that looks fine. You think, yeah, that will, but look at the massive hole here. I know I'm having to zoom in quite a lot to see it, but there's a huge gap there. Remember, this is going to cut out of 3mm acrylic plastic. So if there's a gap there, then the plastic won't cut out. There's a whole load of plastic still connected there, and the whole thing won't work. So you need to be very precise, check top and bottom, and make sure it is connecting, okay? Is everybody quite clear about that so far? Any more questions? Yes, James, that's a great thing. You can do it symmetrical. If it is a symmetrical shape you've done, it might not. You might want to do something that's not symmetrical, in which case you're going to need to do it slightly differently. I'm just letting Jen pick up in. Okay, so that's if you've got an beautiful symmetrical design. Obviously, you can use this way, but you might not have. Now, I used an oval to do, an ellipse to do the handle. You might not want that. You might want something a bit more complicated. So let's have a think what else you might want instead of that as a handle. Well, you might be thinking of some sort of ergonomic shape, or you might have come up with an idea to do a dinosaur or a train or something. So you might have something completely different as a handle shape that you want to do. So there I've just done a weird shape. Okay, let's bring that in a bit. It looks a bit too big. So I might have something like that I've done as a handle shape. So you've got options of what to do. You can use the freehand line tool. This one, the path tool, remember, to draw quite wacky shapes. You might want to build your handle up using a series of shapes. So you might think, well, I want to do a bobbled handle. Actually, let's be more precise in the way we do that. If I copy the first one and then paste another one, so it's the same shape. And then if I just overlap these in a sequence, I could use it as a handle. So we could do a regular shaped design a bit like this as a handle. This is just using the shapes. And as I said, in the shape tool, in this one here, look, you've got some hexagonals, you've got stars, and you can change the number of points on that. It will let you do that. You've got triangles, you've got pentagons, you've got all sorts of things you can use as a shape to draw there. So you don't have to do it like that. One thing, again, I would remind you to do is remember to use the delete tool, the delete part, not delete all, and delete these overhanging bits. Otherwise, the whole handle will cut out in the center. I think that one's lifting up a bit more. Okay, there we go, a bit better like that. So I could have a handle a bit like that. That's the way of doing it too, and that could go onto there. So it's entirely up to you how you do it, but you will need to draw a spoon first. Get your spoon absolutely spot on so that you've got it right. And as I said, make sure you zoom in and check for any gaps and correct them. And the way you would need to correct that is you would need to, I need to move that over. So I need to grab all of that red line at that side, using this grab in the center and lift slightly until it's exactly overlapped onto the other one to make sure there's no gaps, and go and check it. Once you've done all that, once you've got your spoon sorted, it's very easy to do the fork. All you need to do with the fork is select everything, copy, paste it next to it. I would pop it next to it, make it easy to see what you're doing, and then turn that into a fork. Okay, I'm just going to turn my camera back on a second. Is everybody all right, okay with that so far? Any other questions while the camera just comes back on? Jacob, are you okay? I know you joined us a bit late. This is being recorded, so I'll stick this in Teams afterwards and you can watch it. So, forks. Let's just move some of these out of the way. You have a lot of choice with forks. From the weird, the wacky, to the interesting. Okay, most forks that we got in a house look a bit like this. This is a kid's one, so you can see it's a lot smaller than an adult one, but what's called prongs, these bits on the end. And average, normally you have 4. That's the way it is. So most forks, if you looked in your drawer in your kitchen, would have 4 prongs like that. With a kid, the kid is going to use his cutlery to basically shovel his food mostly, and they don't really get the hang of how to use a fork properly until they get to about the age 6 or more. They haven't really figured out how to jab the food. They tend to still use it as a spoon. They tend to scoop their food onto it. They're probably going to use a knife and shove food on it, or shovel that fork through. So you can see this. Now this is actually a camping spoon, and it's a bit like a spork, but it gives you an idea. There's a massive area here that's used for still scooping the food, and a very small amount of fork on the edge of it. You want something between the two for kids. You want something that's still got an area here to shovel food onto and some prongs so that they can. The key thing here is you don't want it very sharp. You've got to make sure these edges are not too sharp. If they're sharp, they're going to hurt themselves by sticking it on the tongue and cutting it. So you need to make sure these bits are rounded off the top. All right, we're not trying to kill the kid, we're just trying to help them eat their food. Each area at the bottom, and you need prongs at the end. So if we start with a spoon, that's going to make it nice and easy for us. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. Is everybody okay with that? Okay, so what I've done is I've cut and pasted the spoon, use this to make my fork with. I would say zoom right in and see what you're doing. You can see actually, look, I'm still not doing it very well there at the top. It still needs moving up a bit to make sure it overlocks. So if we sort that out first. Make sure your grid lock is turned off while you're doing this. Okay, and then just trim, oops, excess bits. So I'm going to turn this into a fork. So what I would suggest you do is press and hold your tool drawing and change it to this connected line option here. And the reason is I want to draw a series of grooves, and I'm going to start with the center line to do the first. So I'm going to do a line down. Now don't go too far in. As I said, if we do, we can end up with no spoon to be used as a spoon. So let's go about halfway, all right, and then back out again. So I can do that. Go along a bit rather than coming straight back in. If I come straight back in, that's quite sharp. I'm going to go along a bit, give myself a bit of space, and then back in. Okay. Make sure this lines up, and back out again. Okay. So that's the first side I've done. So what we can do now is we can delete off the bits we don't want. So I can delete the overhang. Remember, this is delete part. Delete the overhanging bits, and I can delete my gaps in between. Whoops. Remember, there's an undo there to do with. That shouldn't have done that. Actually, that's a bit weird. Well, I didn't make sure that overhung, so bit off. Let's try again. Computers. Zoom in. Definitely zoom in so you can see what a bit better. Okay. Trim that a little bit off. Trim. Whoops. Now, this is why it's good that we're doing this at home. The reason we're doing it, if we can, is it usually takes 2 weeks to do this in lessons. So the more we can do at home, the better it's going to be to get it done. So you can see here, these aren't lining up very well. So if I pull that one down a little bit to try and line that up, and I could even draw a guideline along there just to get it right. Now we need to curve this. This is really sharp, this bit here. Really, really sharp. So what we can do is we can use our path tool to put across the top of this. If I start here, just draw myself a curve that goes across the top of that. I can then trim off the bit I don't want, and it's leaving that bit. Now you might think, well, miss, that's taking a huge chunk off the end of that. Remember, we are zoomed right in. It's taken a fraction of a millimetre off the edge of that, but it's definitely made it much safer. Okay. On the other bit, so if I do the same to this part, if I go into here and curve this, trim the bits off I don't want. Okay, again, when we zoom out, you'll see that's made a massive difference to that. Now, like when we do the spoon, you only do half of it. So I've done half a fork, and I've left that bit there because obviously that's going to mirror on this blue line. So there's going to be another half of it on this side. So the whole thing will mirror over. So then what you can do is you can copy the whole of this bit, paste it over here. Remember to use your flip here, flip it horizontally, and then lift it up and drop it back onto there, okay? So hopefully that will give you a really good idea of doing the fork. And now I can go and neaten that bit off because that obviously is not round enough. So that's one. You don't have to do 4 prongs. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on there. You have 5, you could just have 3 if you want. You can do it any way you like. And you could alter the shape of this bit here as well. So you can make the base of your spoon slightly different. But that's a really simple way of making the fork by starting with the spoon. Okay, I think I need to go into alter this as well because it's moved slightly, move the neck. All right, so an easy way of doing the spoon and the fork. Okay, any questions then so far with what we've got? Give me a thumbs up if that's all right, if everybody's got that so far. And remember, don't worry if you've missed some of this. I've recorded the lesson, and so I've put some into the YouTube channel that show you how to do it. Thanks, Jens. Anybody else? Everybody else okay? Thank you, Cara. Thank you, Tilda. Right, okay. That's fantastic. So hopefully you can download the program. Hopefully you can use my videos because you can watch a bit at a time. You can have it open while you're on the program so you can see it. I want you to do a knife, fork and spoon. I'll get back to the knife in a second. Once you've done it, once you've drawn all of it in red, save the file, send me the file. Right, what we do, Jen's has just put a question in the chat about what do we do when we get back to school. So what we'd end up with is we'd end up with a flat piece of plastic and laser cut out. Plastic we're going to cut out of is acrylic, and it comes in a multitude of colours, so you can have it all sorts of different colours. You can then heat the plastic up. It's a thermoset plastic. The plastic can go in the oven. We have an oven in the workshop. You put it in for about 5 minutes, you take it out, and then we've got some blocks, what are called formers. They're shaped into the shape of cutlery. Even the handle is curved. We've got different formers, so you can decide which shape you want to press your work into. And you basically, while it's hot, with a glove, press the plastic into the former. You hold it for a few seconds and then let go, and your plastic is then formed. Okay, that's how we mold it. So all you're doing at the moment is you're doing the laser cutting bit, the outside. When we get back to school, we'll be doing the molding. So we'll be pressing it into a mold to make it formed. Okay. The other thing I didn't mention when I did my little videos is you can also cut out bits. So you can see on this example, there are some holes in the handle. So if you draw some shapes in red, it will laser cut those out. Try not to do them too close to the edges. Remember when we did your egg cups, if it's too close to the edge, it'll just snap. So make sure there's plenty of material between the edge of the cutlery and where you're putting the hole in. If you want to put any detail on it, so this is engraved, you can put some engraving on it. So let's say there's a pattern on the handle, you could draw that. Remember, you need to draw that in black. So engrave is black, cut is red, okay? Amy, I want you to do all three. So your file will have all three on there, knife, fork and spoon. I'm going to go and do the knife in a minute. You've got next week, Tilda, so don't panic. I don't expect you to do it just today. As I said, normally when we do this, we'd start it in a double lesson, and it usually takes me 2 double lessons to do it. The designs, yeah, once you've got your designs, you're going to then transpose them onto this software, okay? And as I said, it usually takes about 3 hours to draw all your designs onto there, because you need to check them. Normally what I do is I laser cut them out of card first, so that you can then see what they look like. So you might actually cut it out and go, oh no, the handle's too small, the prongs are too long. It's a really good way of testing your design, doing it in card before we cut it out the plastic. Amy's just said one or all. I want you to do all three. Okay, so don't just laser cut a spoon. I want a spoon, a knife and a fork. And as you've just seen, it's quite easy to use the first design, cut and paste it, turn it into a spoon, sorry, a fork, and then cut and paste it again, okay? Everybody's all right with that? I'm going to go and start showing you how to do the knife. Yes, I would do them in a theme. No, Jacob, you don't need a laser cutter. All you need to do is download this software, draw the drawings like you've just seen me doing, and then save the file. Send me the file, okay? I can laser cut them out at school. You don't need to go into school. You don't need to buy expensive laser cutters. We'll do that. As I said, that's where we would be normally in lessons. We'd be laser cutting out. So if you can be still doing the software, it's keeping us on touch with this program. I do the theme, Amy, for all three. So let's see if I can show you this. Just give me a second. It's a bit wonky. So I've shown you this before. This is a model sheet that one of the girls did last year. This is based on underwater. That was her theme, sort of sea creatures. So her knife, a fork and spoon are all based on sea creatures. So this one, I don't know if you can see, there's like a mermaid's tail on it. And I think she decorated the handle so it had scales on it. This one has got a little fishtail. I think this is a seahorse. So it's got a little fin on there and a little bit at the bottom. And then again, she decorated the handle when she laser cut that with some detail. And the knife in this instance is a bit like the doddle knife. And this one, I think, is a turtle. You can see she said turtle on there. So yeah, if you're doing a theme, so if you're doing transport or you're doing dinosaurs or whatever your theme is, I would put that on your design so that all three are the same theme, okay? Unless you're doing something completely different. Let's say you're doing numbers. So, you know, you've got a number on each one and they're all completely different. That's fine. But yeah, definitely. Does that answer that question, Amy? Does that make sense? The cutlery matches. Okay, back to the program. Hopefully that's okay. So you can see I've drawn a spoon and a fork. It's taken me, what, 10 minutes to do that? It didn't take me very long. The longest thing it took me to do was the bit here at the top, doing this bit around there. That's the hardest bit. Actually drawing the shapes is easy peasy. So, knife. Now, a knife is slightly different. I could just cut and paste this again. So if I start with the spoon, copy and paste it. We could start with this, but what tends to happen with the knife is it looks different. First of all, the handle is usually smaller. It's not as in the same proportion. And the utensil at the top is obviously a lot longer. So what I'm going to need to do here is get rid of the top of this. That's no use. I could use this bit, but I think it's not very good for a knife shape. I wouldn't think you'd normally have a knife shape like that. Sometimes it's slightly longer. So I might want to elongate this, make the handle a bit longer for the knife. And I might change it a bit in a minute. I might put some extra bits on there. I'm going to elongate my template as well, so I know how big this is. Let's have a look. Remember, if you click on a line, you go into your properties, it'll tell you how long that is. So that's nearly 16 centimeters long. So let's go for that. Remember, it's in millimeters, so I've updated that now. Okay, so my knife is slightly longer, which is what I think probably it would be. There you go. You can see that's slightly longer than the one before. So I'm just going to get rid of this a second, move it down there. There you go. Delete that. And the top of the knife, yeah, make it a bit more. I think that handle's too big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all that and bring it down a bit so it's more down there a bit. Yeah, I think that's better. Okay, so this is going to be my knife up the top there. I'll zoom back in again now. Okay, knife. Now, the temptation, of course, is to go mad and create a shank. Yeah, I know you lot, you boys in particular, and make it as jagged as you possibly can. So it's going to really saw through things, and that's great if you're cutting through steak, but these are kids, remember, they're not going to be doing that. They don't want it as sharp as that. They're going to do some damage with that. So what we need to do is be a bit more precise with what we're doing. Okay, so I'm going to start with the top of the knife. I'm going to think about making my knife have perhaps a curve to it. Yeah, so this is going to be the top of the knife that the kids are going to rest the thumb on or the finger on there. And this is the cutting edge I'm going to do down this side, okay? Again, remember, zoom in. It's a little bit easier to see if you zoom in what you're doing. And I'm going to draw some straight lines on here, I think. Yeah, I'm going to draw the connected one again. So I'm going to draw a sort of blade that comes along. Now, another little thing I'll say to you here, let me just zoom right in. When you're drawing lines, I don't know if you can see that, but there's serrations along the line. It's not quite straight. Even there in the middle, a bit of a jump where it's not quite straight. You need to make sure it's absolutely straight. Now, there was a key on the one at school. Let's see if I can work this. I'm just pressing the keyboard. If I can, no, this isn't working. Sometimes, no. Using the shift key holds it straight. Let's have a look. Is that working? No, that's not working. Alt, no. I'm just trying to see. I might have to Google this and see if there's a way you can make sure your line draw is absolutely straight. In the meantime, you're going to need to be precise because otherwise it will cut it slightly off center too. All right. I've tried to make that line as straight as I can make it, so it's really, really straight onto there. And I'm going to carry it on to here, so it's going to connect onto that bit. Okay, now I've deliberately not given it sharp bits because I don't want to make it too sharp for somebody to use. Don't like that bit there. I'm going to alter that. So I'm going to bring that from there, that around. I'm using the overlap, delete the bits that overlap, trim back. So I've got quite a straight blade there without any serration. Put serration in there, you need to curve off really, really curved edges. So it's a bit softer, okay? So I've kept my knife nice and simple. In fact, my whole set is very, very basic, but it gives you an idea of what I would like you to do, okay? So knife, fork, spoon as a set. So think about what it is that makes them all a set. So is it the handle that's the same? Is it some detail you put in on there or some decoration? So if I was putting any decoration, I remember I changed the color into black and I could add some detail onto there. So I might want to do something a bit strange on there, okay? So roughly all you're going to be using is your line tool. You're going to be using perhaps the ellipse tool or the shapes tool. You might want to use a circle. You're going to use the path tool because you'll need to draw some freehand shapes and the delete key at the bottom. I don't think you're really going to need any of these other tools to draw these things. The other one you will use is this one, you select tool, and you can either click a single individual line or you can use it to draw something and select everything. And then remember what you've got over here is you've got your grid lock. If you're drawing things, you want to snap it on the grid. Remember to turn it off if it's snapping and it's making it too complicated. You've got zoom. Ooh, we've got undo here as well. That's fantastic. There's undo. There's edit undo, and there's also undo here. So you've got ways of undoing something. For example, the length there. Down the bottom, property tells you the exact measurements. Okay, so you can be quite precise in what you do. Sometimes it's hard to tell from a drawing. I look at this drawing, I've got no idea how big they are, just guessing at it, because it's hard to tell what that's going to cut like. So using guide and putting a size in is a really good way of making sure you know how big these things are. All right. Hope everybody's quite clear with that. Just before I go give you back time to do this. Jacob, if you follow the link off Show My Homework and on Teams, there's this link to this website. Okay, this is where all the videos, I've attached the videos individually, but they're going to be here. I'm not going to take them off here. So if you need anything, you need to look back at how you did your modeling, or if you want to know how to draw the, how to set up your folder, how to use the tools, it's all on this website. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense too. And don't forget, I'm hoping to fill this in green. We have all the way down now to here in green. I've got some people have started doing the blister pack and submitting it. So that was last week's work. I've only had 2 submitted so far. That's Cara and Ollie. Okay, you were supposed to be designing your packaging. Get that submitted in and let's get that one done too. Okay, and what we're doing at the moment is working on this one, 2D design. So we're walking along that one there. Okay, so I'll keep attaching that to make sure you know what it is you need to do. Hopefully that makes sense. Are there any other questions so far? Any questions? No? Everybody cool with that? Give us a thumbs up. That makes sense. Hopefully that all makes sense. So it's now, gosh, I've been talking for nearly an hour. I think I'll give you time now to go off and do your work. That's great. Fantastic. Thank you for that. Go and have a go. Go and have a play with the program. If you get frustrated, I'm here, I'm going nowhere. Email me, talk to me so I can see if I can help you. Look at the videos, use the videos because I've really explained in detail how to do it. And if it's something wrong with the program, email the help desk at school, okay? They're there every day and they'll email straight back and sort that out for you, okay? Thanks for coming on today, folks. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm looking forward to see it. Don't forget to submit your design sheets if you haven't done so far, your blister pack I'm still waiting for. And as soon as you've drawn this, send the file to me. Send it in, Show My Homework. And I can go and laser cut next week for you. Okay? Everybody quite clear? I'll see you soon. Okay? Take care.